welcome back here as we are preparing to go green for the British Touring Car season here at the Spring 2026 campaign. And after what was a fantastic campaign last season, won of course by David Johansson, it is now all to play for again as the points are reset. Talking of points, there is an update to the way the points are applied this season, where we had the points applied with 15th for first, 14th, 13th place, all the way down to 15th place. It is still the top 15 scoring points in all three races today, but the points on offer are slightly different. 20 points for a race win now, 17 for a second place, and 15 points for sitting in third position. Now, if I'm not mistaken, as I try to flick around with things here, as I always do in the first rounds as things set up with, if I'm not mistaken as well, just like we saw in the Porsche, we are going to see fastest laps here in the touring car, but I am just going to double check that here in our points system, and I cannot see where it's applied over here, but if it's anything like we saw in the Porsches, it's going to be applied with the fastest lap again. We will have to double check at the end of the event. I'm running without the bonus point for fastest laps right now, though. We're going to see how it gets on. Now, talking about how drivers are getting on, it is qualifying here. The qualifying going to set the grid for the first race of the day. 3 races coming your way, with the third race being an inverted field. Now then, without further ado, I know you guys are waiting for it, so let's get down onto the track here once again at Brands Hatch Indy. We have had the Porsches out of the way, and now we are out there in the touring cars, and look at this open qualifying and a lot of names getting placed onto that purple lap time at the top right now. We will get them onto your left-hand side at the moment as well, and it's James Paisley Knight who is the fastest right now in this qualifying session. Of course, some familiar names that you would have seen just a moment ago in the Porsches, and a whole host of new names out there as well, not only for today's event, but also for the league as a whole. Vil Coca-Cola, a new name out there. Of course, Marek Lolius did get a couple of laps in the season in the winter season, but back out there again. You've got some other new names. Joe Coffin, new out there. Cam McKay out there as well. Janis Soliborski out there as well in 8th position. So a lot of names that we're going to have to get used to as well this season. One name notably absent from this season, or at least from tonight's event, is of course our Season 1 champion. We do not see him headed back out to defend his championship. Are we going to see then? Well, we are going to see another driver take the lead there. Will it be one of these Alpha Corsas who have been so dominant towards the end of last season? We saw the 3 of them up inside the top 4 by the end. They just weren't able to take the lead in that one, unfortunately. Can they do it here today as we watch them head around? We've also got obviously some familiar names towards the back as well. Pete Paver out there, Carl Thompson out there as well, Adam Baker who we just saw out there. So some names that we are used to, and some names that we are getting used to as well, as Carl Thompson goes for a bit of a slide through turn number 1 and up towards Druitt here. Matt Neal currently the purple lap time. Of course, drivers are going to be running all the way to the end of the session. It is going to set the grid for the first of 3 races today. Race number 2 going to be set from your results of race number 1, of course. Thomas Brown finds his way to provisional pole position ahead of Matt Neal. James Isaac Smith currently 3rd fastest up there ahead of Joe Coffin. James Paisley Knight stepped in as Thompson's off again. Paisley Knight stepped in a couple of races last season in the touring cars, and he's back out there again today, showing some good pace in these TCR machines. And a surprising entry, actually. The number 43, he's not out on track at the moment, but that is a surprising entry to see his name appear. I was not expecting to see Riley Pogue out there in the touring cars this season, but he is back out there in the touring cars. Thomas Brown is still out there. He's the fastest one out there right now, and he goes faster with a 48.735 ahead of Matt Neal and James Lazick-Smith at the moment. Bachelor down in 6th position right now. Hayden Ahmed still out there at the moment. 2.5 minutes left on qualifying, but only 4 drivers out on the track. That's Carl Thompson, Adam Baker, Hayden Ahmed and Thomas Brown. Make it 5 because Janis Salaborski is out there as well in 15th position, and it's nice to see some extra nationalities head down behind the wheel in this series. Of course, it represents the British Touring Car Championship. It is nice to see that we've got some drivers from a variety of countries, including Poland, for the first time in the league history. Down in towards turn number 1, then Hayden Ahmed seeing if he can get supported here by the 18 of Thomas Brown on one last attempt at a flying lap. Of course, running in the Elantra. A tricky car to get around the corners is that Elantra, but it is good in the wet. And if you watched any of last season, you'll know that the wet does come into play a fair amount in this series. And if you didn't catch up with any of last season, you can watch all of the live streams or the race highlights if you haven't got that much time available over on our YouTube. If you head across to youtube.com/@JosephWright TV. You can also find it by going to josephwrightbroadcasting.com/YouTube. We watch Adam Baker here running down through turn number 1. He runs slightly wide through turn number 1 and will abandon that lap. Thomas Brown then is now the only driver who will still be out on circuits here, and will have just enough time to get in another lap on the board. But what that does mean is the grid is set with Thomas Brown on pole position ahead of his teammate Matt Neal. Why does this feel vaguely familiar? Oh yes, if we throw our minds back to an hour ago, the front row that we're getting here in the touring cars is the front row that we saw in the Porsches. Right, we come through the final turn here for Thomas Brown, and he backs out of it. That will be the end of that, and we will finish qualifying here at Brands Hatch Indy for rounds number 1 to 3 of the British Touring Car Series for the spring 2026 season. It is the second season of competition, and it is a nice field of drivers out there. If you want to get involved, then don't delay. You can get yourself involved as well by heading down to the Lane Sheets Racing British Racing Club. You can do that by heading across to Sim Grid and searching for LSR. Now then, qualifying is over and done with. It does mean that there are 16 drivers with lap times on the board. Riley Pogue is in the session. Will he be starting the race? He did not get out there in the qualifying session. It'll be nice to have him out, that is for sure. Right then, let's have a look at the grid then. We're going to have to do this one nice and quickly because no rolling start in this one. Thomas Brown will start from pole position ahead of Matt Neal. James Lazick-Smith on 3rd ahead of Joe Coffin and James Paisley Knight, and Thomas Bachelor in 5th and 6th. 7th goes way of Hayden Ahmed ahead of Jan Mild. Cam McKay will start in 9th ahead of Gregory Speakman. Adam Baker from 11th and Marek Lolius from 12th position. Carl Thompson will start in 13th ahead of Pete Paver, ahead of Janis Salaborski and Ville Carcola. And then at the back of the field will be Riley Pogue. A nice grid, 17 cars preparing to go down for racing action here for the first round of the season. As we prepare to go green flag racing, all 17 drivers have gone onto the track, and it will be 15 laps of racing action once more. 3 races coming your way. All of them will be 15 laps of asking. Thomas Brown is starting this one from pole position ahead of Matt Neal. It is James Lazick-Smith there in 3rd position, and then it is teammates galore. James Paisley Knight and Joe Coffin 4th and 5th position there. Hayden Ahmed's just behind in 7th as well, and then it's another Alfa Corsa of Thomas Bachelor. The top 7 here have got 2 teams and 1 independent driver. It is very strong around here for both of the teams out there right now. We are preparing for the first race of racing action. It's a little bit of a longer countdown than I was expecting. It was a bit quicker in the Porsches, so I rushed my way through there. But it looks like we have a nice bit of a countdown, which is lovely. We shall have to do a little bit of a slower grid for the next races. Okay then, it is going to be 15 laps on the board around Brands Hatch Indy. There they are up, and we are going to prepare to go green flag racing here. And we are away for round number 1 of the British Touring Car Series. There's contact in the background there. But we are all the way in towards turn number 1 with the Alpha Corsas leading ahead as Thomas Batchelor moves past James Pacey Knight around the outside up towards the braking zone of Druids. It's all settled down at the front there. But it is side by side right now with Jan Mild dropping behind. Hayden Ahmed, Cam McKay holds on ahead of Gregory Speakman as that is Riley Pogue trying to find his way up the order. Pete Paver gets past Janis Soliborski, who's going to have to come down pit lane. He jumped the start and will get a penalty for that. So we will say goodbye to Soliborski's first attempt at getting some good points on the board, of any points on the board at all. Only the top 15 will be getting points, of course. 17 cars in the race here means 2 drivers are going to be missing out. We head through turn number 1 as we watch Joe Coffin on the rear end of James Lazick Smith. We get up towards turn number 2 of Druids, and we get our timing to the left-hand side so we can have a look at that. Pogue gets to the inside of Adam Baker, and Riley Pogue didn't get a lap time in qualifying. Is up 4 places off the opening lap and a half here, and we'll look to see if he can gain anything else. These cars a little bit easier to run side by side and nose to tail through the Brands Hatch Indy circuit than the Porsches were earlier on today. But let's see if the racing is just as fierce or even fiercer. As we come across the timing line, it is being led still by Thomas Brown ahead of Matt Neal. They haven't come together like we see the Alpha Corsas sometimes do, so they'll be thanking their stars for that one. Can Thomas Brown go for an absolute dominant evening? He has taken pole position in the Porsches and now in the touring cars as well, and he is still leading the way ahead of his teammate Matt Neal. James Lazick Smith holds on to Joe Coffin behind at the moment. Coffin 0.2 of a second back. Batchelor is not too far off the rear of that either, looking to potentially get involved in this one. There's not too many big gaps out there as Coffin waits to the inside of Lazick Smith. It wasn't going to work out for him up the inside there, as James Pacey Knight is on the rear of this fight in 6th position right now. He started 5th. He swapped positions with Thomas Batchelor, of course. Thomas Brown now puts in the purple lap of the race, exactly what he wants to continue a very dominant start to the Porsche series. Can he do the same here in the touring car series as well? There's Pogue. Looks to the inside of Thompson. Thompson went defensive early. There was nowhere for Pogue to go to the inside there, and he has to stay behind as we go through Graham Hill Bend. The Audi is a strong touring car. It's not a popular one in this series, however. Only 2 cars are out there in the Audis. That's Jan Mild and Carl Thompson. The rest of them running the Hondas or the Hyundais. In fact, I don't think we saw the Audi out at all last season, so it is something that isn't run very often in the British Touring Car Series, that is for sure. As we go up towards the timing line, it opens up out the front there. It looks like there may have been an issue towards the back between Pete Paver and Phil Carcola. We'll have to have a jump back in a moment as Coffin still running behind Lazick Smith there. Here it is, a nudge from Carcola on the rear end of Paver. He then slows right down to make sure that Paver is able to hold that position, which is great sportsmanship when you do make a mistake that sends someone else around. It's a good sportsmanship there from Carcola to let Paver through. Paver holds on to the final point scoring position in this race then as we come up towards the timing line, and across the line we go. We see the Alpha Corsas of Thomas Brown and Matt Neal head down into turn number 1, but of course they are 3 seconds away from this fight right now for the podium place, which is led by James Lazick-Smith, chased by Joe Coffin and Thomas Batchelor. James Paisley Knight just on the rear end of this one in the near distance. Certainly not out of it, especially if something happens here, but right now, drivers just trying to figure out where can they make the overtake, where can they find their way through. It's going to be difficult, but it looks like it is going to be a potential evening between the Chaps Motorsport drivers and the Alfa Corsa drivers. The Alfa Corsa drivers used to endurance racing, stepping into the touring cars to race against each other for the first time. They're back again this season. The Chaps Motorsport team, then we saw Lazick-Smith and Hayden Ahmed under a team together last season. They stepped it up this season with Chaps Motorsport, bringing Joe Coffin into the fray as well, and Coffin gets all the way to the inside of James Lazick-Smith there. Couldn't quite get enough of an overlap to make a move into Druids, but Lazick-Smith knows that Coffin is there, as that's a move for Adam Baker past Marek Lelius through the exit of Graham Hill Bend and into Druids. Here is how that one occurred. And it was just a move to the inside for Adam Baker there, as it's also a change in positions up ahead as Joe Coffin has made the move past James Lazick-Smith. We'll stay in our replay here and see how the Elantra driver was able to do it. We come up towards the final turn and it's a mistake from Lazick-Smith, sends him wide, and through goes Joe Coffin in that move. McKay to the inside of Pogue and moves up to 9th position. Pogue is up 7 spots in this race, but now under attack from Gregory Speakman as well. Speakman has to stay in behind at the moment. Speakman doing well to keep up with some fast drivers in this race as well. Didn't look too confident in the Porsches earlier this evening, but looking a lot better in the touring cars. It seems to have found some pace over last season as well. The more you drive these cars, the more you get used to them. They've done 30 races, of course, has Speakman. As we head through turn number 1 and watch this fight for the podium. Paisley Knight still 6/10 off of the back of it, but Joe Coffin is now the man who leads this train of drivers. The race still being led by Thomas Brown at the moment from pole position. It's a common name that we're seeing at the front of the field this evening in the LSR series, both in the support event of the Porsches and now in the main race of the touring cars as well. We watched Thomas Batchelor. He's still chasing down Lazick-Smith and Coffin as it stands, but this is a great start to the season for the Alfa Corsa drivers and for the Chaps Motorsports drivers. We'll say that as well, because Hayden Ahmed is holding on to 7th ahead of Jan Mild at the moment. Jan Mild of Retro Motorsports here. Heading across the line, looking very nice in the Audi, that livery, I have to say, trying to do something. And that one, as Joe Coffin has a big mistake into turn number 1. It's wide. Is it contact initially? It is contact. It's contact there from Lazick-Smith. And Joe Coffin gets back on in 6th position. But James Lazick-Smith gets into contact there, and then Thomas Batchelor is able to find his way past as well. Here's how he was able to do that. He saw the incident going on ahead, and he's going to look to the inside, take full advantage into Druids, and through he goes. And it looked like it was Paisley Knight flashing the lights there at Lazick-Smith for Joe Coffin. Coffin not flashing his lights there, but his teammate was up towards Druids once more, and now it is Thomas Batchelor in 3rd, which means in the first round of the season, are we going to see an Alfa Corsa podium lockout? There is potential here. Brown and Neal are 6 seconds up the road and are looking to take 1st and 2nd in this race. Can Thomas Batchelor go from 6th on the grid to potentially winning this, potentially getting the podium here and making it a lockout for the team? Joe Coffin to the inside of his teammate Paisley Knight, and will take that position as well and make his move through. Joe Coffin up into 5th, Paisley Knight down to 6th, but it is the 3 teammates in a row, Coffin, Paisley Knight and Hayden Ahmed there, all running in a row as well. Coming through Druids, Joe Coffin goes. And at the back of the field, we have Pete Paver and Soliborski. They seem to have had some issues because now Pete Paver was up there, of course, had some issues earlier on in the race. It looked like Pete Paver's had some major issues here. Yep, he's off at the final turn, and that's what's found Pete Paver down to 17th place, and unfortunately for him, behind Soliborski, who has had to come down pit lane for a penalty in this race for jumping the start. So that is a real shame, as Lelius gets up the inside of Thompson and moves up from 13th. This is how that happened. It was a slide for Thompson. We were watching Thompson in qualifying, and it's almost a similar slide to his qualifying slides that he was doing. As this is Pogue looking to get past Jan Mild in a potential move for 8th position. He's up 8 spots in this race. Could he make it 9 if he can get past the Retro Motorsports machine? As he comes through the left-hander of Graham Hill Bend, he is over the rear of Jan Mild here. Hayden Ahmed just a second up the road, but we're coming up to 2 to go as Brown and Neal cross the timing line. It remains close. In the fight for third, though, as Lazik Smith looking to regain the podium after contact with Coffin earlier. It was almost contact again. He goes to the inside of Batchelor, but Batchelor does hold on to it right now. Up to Druids, and he dies to the inside line. There's a little bit of a nudge there, but they're side by side. But once again, Lazik Smith goes for that late move. It's not worked out for him. He's going to go for the switchback here, but Thomas Batchelor holds on to it with 1.5 laps to go here. Up towards the end of the lap around the Brands Hatch Indy circuit. Through clearways we go. And into the final turn. It looks to the inside once again there from Lazik Smith. Another little nudge as the white flag comes out here. We head up towards turn number 1. Is Batchelor going to go defensive? No, he's going for that normal racing line. It allows Lazik Smith to the inside. But Batchelor can hold the speed, and he's going to try and hold the speed. He's onto the gravel. That's a little bit of contact. Lazik Smith is not letting Batchelor turn in. There's more contact between the two of them. And Lazik Smith regains third, but Batchelor is not going to be happy with that move. And that is planting it on the apex there, getting it slowed down. And here comes Joe Coffin to make the move on Batchelor. And that means Lazik Smith will remain unfought into the final corners. Contact between Coffin and Batchelor. Coffin wide off the circuit. It is going to be race victory for Thomas Brown and Matt Neal, but James Lazik Smith takes home third. It looks like Batchelor will just sprint to 4th position ahead of Paisley Knight. And then Joe Coffin will come home in 6th position ahead of Aidan Ahmed. And across the line, the rest of the drivers come in their own fights. It is 3 cars quite close together at the back here. It is Phil Carcola, Janice Soliborski and Pete Paver coming up towards the timing line to finish race number 1 of 3. What an end to that one. What an end to race number 1. Let's have a quick look at our results then from race 1. This will also be your grid for race 2. It was winning from Brown ahead of Matt Neal. James Lazik Smith came home in 3rd ahead of Thomas Batchelor. James Paisley Knight in 5th position. 6th position went the way of Joe Coffin ahead of Aidan Ahmed. Cam McKay came home in 8th ahead of Riley Pogue and Jan Mild. Gregory Speakman came home in 11th position ahead of Adam Baker. Then it was Marek Lolius in 13th ahead of Carl Thompson, and Phil Carcola took the last of the points-paying positions in 15th. Janice Soliborski and Pete Paver just missing out on that one by less than 1.5 seconds. Race number 2 then is about to begin. The grid is going to be set in the same way that we just saw the results from race number 1. I think we've got just enough time to go through the grid. So just to confirm, it'll be Brown ahead of Neal on the front row, Lazik Smith and Batchelor side by side on row 2 ahead of Paisley Knight and Joe Coffin. It'll then be Hayden Ahmed ahead of Cam McKay, then Riley Pogue ahead of Jan Mild, Gregory Speakman and Adam Baker. Then we'll see Marek Lolius, Eda Carl Thompson, Vil Carcola, and then at the back of the field we see Janusz Zalaborski and Pete Paver. Now, we should see a reverse grid for race number 3 at the end of this one, but that is and the number is something that hasn't been confirmed to me and I have forgotten to ask about. I believe if it's the same as last season, it will be the top 6. It may have been increased. We shall have to wait and find out for that one. Right, though, it is going to be race number 2 and round number 2 here at the Brands Hatch Indy circuit. It was won by Thomas Brown in race number 1. I missed who got the fastest lap, but Thomas Brown was running purples towards the front. So I think it was fastest laps for him again. He will be starting this one once more ahead of his teammates Matt Neal, James Lazick-Smith in 3rd position, and then Thomas Batchelor, who started a bit further back before, will start this one in 4th, there to support his teammates. Right, the lights are up and we prepare to go racing here at Brands Hatch. And we are green, we are away for round number 2, and everyone heads up into turn number 1. It is side by side for Lazick-Smith and Batchelor for the lead. It's side by side for third, sorry. It's side by side for the teammates behind as Batchelor looks to try and get to the outside of Lazick-Smith right now. And he certainly is going to be able to hold it there. It will turn to the inside into Graham Hill Bend, and Thomas Batchelor gets that move done on Lazick-Smith. Lazick-Smith, though, coming back across at it at the moment as it's also side by side behind between Paisley Knight and Joe Coffin. That was Lazick-Smith. Regaining 3rd position off the circuit there was Joe Coffin. And he's in between his 2 teammates as it stands as we come to end the first lap of asking here in race number 2. Thomas Brown once again leads the way as we come across the timing line for the first time, as that's Pogue looking to get to the inside of Cam McKay in his move up the order, starting from the back. And now we go in towards Druids, and that's a big moment there for Jan Mild. Mild collects Gregory Speakman. Speakman into the gravel and off the circuit. Not what Jan Mild would have wanted to do, and not what Gregory Speakman would have been wanting for either. He gets the meatball flag, and he will have to visit pit lane, and you can see there is some major damage on his car in the background there as he grabs his way around. Swaps at the front though, as that was Lazick-Smith off the circuit. What has happened to Lazick-Smith? It's a slide into the final turn, and it means we are now running the 3 Alpha Courses out front. Then we have the next 3 team of Chaps Motorsport running in 4th, 5th and 6th right now. It is a very dominant run at the front of this field for 2 teams in particular. Lazick-Smith, though, is going to be hoping to find his way back through the order as he chases down the Chaps Motorsport drivers. He's got Hayden Ahmed directly in front of him. Ahead of that is Paisley Knight and then Coffin. This is what happened to Gregory Speakman. It was that mistake from Mild, and that hit with Mild. You can see that front right is actually flat. That front right suspension is broken, but the front right tyre was flat, as well as Hayden Ahmed has gone around. What has happened here? As Lazick-Smith and Meatball, is it contact between the 2? Lazick-Smith drives into the rear of Hayden Ahmed, and James Lazick-Smith continues to have issues and contact, and he misses the pit lane with that meatball as well, which means he is currently running around and will have to come down pit lane to grab that quick repair. But that has completely changed the order towards the bottom of the top 10, as it's brought Riley Pogue now up to 6th position, and behind 2 of the Chaps Motorsport drivers, Joe Coffin and James Paisley Knight. Hayden Ahmed is not going to be happy that he is out of this race because it means that he is now going to miss out on some points, some good points that he could have got otherwise. Talking about points, this should be working for us now. That is how many points drivers are getting across this total weekend so far. In fact, we will hide that for now, which means Batchelor at the moment That doesn't make sense. Why would Bachelor be leading with 28? Because I know why. I continue to have issues with my things as we try to watch this fight. We'll get that sorted now as we watch Riley Poe chasing down Paisley Knight here in their continuing fight, with Poe trying to move up this order and do something with this one. Now then, if I do that, will we see... No, that is still completely incorrect, and I don't know why that is showing as completely incorrect. Okay, back up towards the front, though, and we will get that one sorted again, just like we did with the Porsches. It's showing points this time, but we'll have to get that one sorted after this one, as we watch Riley Hitchman here chasing down... Riley Poe here chasing down James Paisley Knight, and he sits in 6th position at the moment. Back towards the bottom of the top 10 and just outside of the top 10, you do have Marek Lolius. He's holding on to 10th, chasing down Carl Thompson. You then got Adam Baker in 11th. And then you got Vil Karkola and Janis Soliborski, drivers who have been able to benefit from early issues from other drivers. They started 15th, 16th. Pete Paver's into the points. He started 17th. They've taken advantage of Speakman's, Lazark Smith and Ahmed's issues in this race. This is Pogue, though. He's going to the inside of Paisley Knight up towards turn number 1. Paisley Knight now goes defensive. It's a little bit of a slide on the rear end as Pogue gets onto the grass there. All over the rear end. He moves to the right-hand side. Tries to make that overtake work. It's not going to at the moment. He's going to have to stay behind as it stands. Right, we come up towards the end of the lap once more, about halfway through race number 2. The gap between Brown and Neal, half a second at the moment, and it looks like it is going to be once again Thomas Brown's victory, as he has won all of the races on offer tonight in the Porsches and the touring cars. He is showing some great pace around the Brands Hatch Indy circuit. Back into this fight, though, we've got Adam Baker chasing down Lolius to try and get into the top 10 and get the points that are on offer for that one, if possible. But at the moment, not able to do anything, as Lolius himself is going to try and get past Carl Thompson. It switches across. Can't do anything there as we come up now to the end of the left-hander of Graham Hill Bend, and they settle themselves down. Back to this fight now, and Pogue runs off the circuit wide and will lose time with that one. He did the same move in the Porsches when he was chasing down Brown for a race victory. He's going to have to stay behind at the moment and still chase these two chaps, motorsport drivers of Paisley Knight and Coffin, who are running in 5th and 4th. And Pete Paver has had issues. He is crabbing along the back straight there. What has happened to Paver as we come through? It looks like a slide. It is. It's a little bit of a wobble. It's deep. And they're just not able to slow down in time. And a huge wallop with the wall for Pete Paver. And you can see that car crabbing around. Unfortunately, we'll have to come down pit lane to get that fixed because there is too many laps left on the board for him to ignore it. What that does mean is it should put James Lazark Smith back into the points here, as Paver will most likely fall a lap down. But Paver does still have an opportunity to hold on to 15th because he hasn't had as much damage as Lazark Smith did when he came down pit lane. Right, back to this fight then, with Pogue behind Paisley Knight and Coffin. At the moment, he's just not able to find any way through. There's no door opening up for him, so he will have to just wait behind once more. Right, how is this going for Paver? He's going to come out of pit lane here. Where is Speakman? Speakman's going to come around, and actually Pete Paver is going to hold on to 14th place here, ahead of Gregory Speakman, who's also had to come down pit lane, remember, with that meatball flag. That is the race lead of Thomas Brown and Matt Neal coming in just behind there, so they'll be getting past those back markers momentarily, as we've got 5 more laps on the board. And right now it is Pogue looking to the inside of Paisley Knight. He gets his front of his car in there. It's contact all the way through the corner, but Paisley Knight will stay there and will force Pogue onto the wider entry into Graham Hill Bend, but that is not going to make Pogue back out of this one. They run side by side through Surtees. We cut across for the Indy circuit. It will switch the way of Paisley Knight. And once again, Pogue has to remain behind here, looking to try and get the exit. He gets to the rear bumper of Paisley Knight, and now just getting that toe up towards turn number 1. What line is Paisley Knight going to run? He's going to run the defensive line, giving Pogue the preferred racing line on the outside. He couldn't quite turn it in as much as he wanted to, though, because Paisley Knight was right there where he needed to be in the middle of the circuit. What that does mean is that Paisley Knight will remain ahead of Pogue once more here for an additional lap of asking. And with that being said, we're getting down to just 3 more to go, which means that if Pogue wants to make this move for a top 5, he is going to have to make the move ASAP as we come to the end of the lap now into clearways. Obviously where we saw Hayden Ahmed go around after contact with Lazarus Smith earlier in this race. It is Ahmed's teammate here, Paisley Knight, going defensive with Riley Pogue, who is trying to move his way up the order. Started race number 1 from 17th. He finished race number 1 in 9th. He is up to 6th place now. Can he make it 5th? He goes to the outside as Paisley Knight goes defensive into Druids. It looks like Paisley Knight trying to get the wider line on the exit. It was an up and over from Pogue, but it will give Paisley Knight the line into Graham Hill. But Pogue carries the speed on the outside, and Riley Pogue takes 5th position away from Paisley Knight there, who now drops to 6th in this race. But Riley Pogue is on an absolute mission around the Indy circuit here, and he continues to make moves in this race, up into 5th now with 2 laps to go. This is the train of drivers that is being chased by Vil Carcola. It is Adam Baker ahead in 11th, Marek Leolis in 10th, and Carl Thompson running around in 9th position right now, as they are all trying to find a way inside the top 10. Jan Mild is not too far off of Cam McKay here either. And then that's James Lazarus Smith a lap down just behind. He is not involved in this fight for position between McKay and Mild. We head on to the white flag lap as Thomas Brown continues to dominate the evening's racing as we come through the final corner. It is right now opening up between quite a few of the drivers, which is good news for those ahead. Jan Mild, though, looking to try to get to the inside of McKay early doors into the final lap there. Can't quite do it, pushes out wide. They both pick up a little bit of gravel there. This fight going on between Baker and Lelius behind is also really close as it stands. And we've got the white flag out, but Brown and Neal are both running really slow here. They are going for a formation finish, that is for sure. The 3 drivers in Alpha Corsa are going for the formation finish here. Thomas Brown will take win number 2 ahead of Matt Neal, and Batchelor will take home 3rd. There they go into turn 1, ahead of Joe Coffin. Riley Pogue takes 5th ahead of James Paisley Knight. Cam McKay holds on to 7th ahead of Jan Mild. Carl Thompson comes home in 9th. Marek Lolius in 10th, Adam Baker and Vil Carcola. Janis Soloborski comes home in 13th. Pete Paver will come home in 14th ahead of Gregory Speakman. James Isaac Smith came home in 16th, and Hayden Ahmed will cross the line at the back of the field. What a result that was then. What a race, and what a lovely formation finish that was from the teammates. That's race number 1. I looked at that result and thought, that does not look right. It was not. That was race number 1. Here are the results for race number 2, with Brown finishing ahead of Neal and Batchelor, a podium for the Alpha Coursers. Joe Coffin finishing 4th ahead of Pogue and Paisley Knight. Cam McKay coming home in 7th ahead of Jan Mild and Carl Thompson. And Marek Lolius took home 10th position. 11th with Adam Baker ahead of Vil Carcola. Janis Soloborski came home in 13th ahead of Pete Paver. Gregory Speakman in 15th ahead of James Isaac Smith and Hayden Ahmed. Right then, the reverse grid is a top 15 reversed, which means that our pole sitter for this one is going to be Pete Paver ahead of Gregory Speakman. Janis Salaborski will start from 3rd position on the grid ahead of Vil Carcola. Adam Baker will start in 5th ahead of Marek Lolius. 7th will be Carl Thompson ahead of Jan Mild. Cam McKay in 9th. James Paisley Knight in 10th ahead of Riley Pogue and Joe Coffin. 13th will be Thomas Batchelor ahead of ahead of Matt Neal, ahead of Thomas Brown and James Lazark Smith, and then Hayden Ahmed at the back, and that is because those two not able to finish in the lead lap or within the top 15. It does mean that our race winner from all the LSR races tonight, the Porsches and the touring cars, will be starting this race from 15th on the grid. Expect just a little bit of carnage here as drivers will be trying to make their way through and up the order. We're yet to see how Thomas Brown deals with traffic because he's not had to worry about it all evening long so far. As we wait for our drivers, Pete Paver then does take this opportunity to start from the front of the field, try to take the most points out of this one. Let's see what our championship standings are saying here to see what they are saying. Yeah, I don't know what those points are. I don't know what those points are and why they are saying that. We're going to have to figure this one out at the end of the event, I'm sure, like we did before. I am going to get it open here. And yeah, I can't figure out why those points are saying those points. Maybe I've spelt some things wrong. Okay, right. 15 laps on the board here for the final race of the day. We are green for round number 3, and it is a big gaggle of cars heading up to turn number 1 here as drivers try to gain any and all positions possible. And off the circuit, turn number 1 is one of the Alpha Corsas. It's Matt Neal out at turn 1. Issues through Paddock Hill Bend as well as we see Cam McKay facing the wrong way. A jump start penalty for James Lazark Smith, and Pogue is spun, and that is a huge pile up in the middle of the field. Mild and Thomas Brown caught up in that one as well. Damage for a lot of our cars as they try to get going in this 3rd and final race of the day. It is Gregory Speakman who's benefited the most. He leads the way after the opening lap of racing action. There are 6 meatball flags on the opening lap, 1 black flag as well. We're going to see a lot of cars come down pit lane, and their days will be done early doors here as Batchelor looks to get up the inside of James Lazark Smith up towards turn number 1. That was an absolutely pandemonium of a race start. We lost Matt Neal before turn 1 as that's to the inside of Lazark Smith. Goes Batchelor. Remember, Lazark Smith has a penalty. Is going to need to come down pit lane, but right now is fighting Thomas Batchelor hard, who sits 8th position in this race right now, trying to chase down that front grid right now that is being led by Gregory Speakman. Speakman is yet to take a victory in the Lane Sheets Racing British Touring Car Series. Is today his opportunity to do that. 2 laps down, 13 to go here. As it looks like for the most part drivers are settling themselves down. Not here though, as Joe Coffin goes to the inside of Carl Thompson to try and make that move. Right, let's have a look here on the opening lap of Asking. Oh, just look at it. So many cars caught up in that one as they all came together there. Trying to figure out what happened up into turn number 1, but I think it just happened so early on. So that's all that going on, and Paisley Knight trying to avoid it, manages to avoid it in the end. This will happen to McKay. It was contact with the 57 of Paisley Knight, and he went around, and then, oh, we saw that one in the air. It was contact for Neal, and it's contact. Is that from Paisley Knight again? Or is that from Coffin? I think that might have been from Coffin that time. Right, back to live pictures here then. as Lazarus Smith black flagged again. He's just come down pit lane, and it looks like he's been black flagged again in his entry to pit lane. No, it's a Meeble flag as Lazarus Smith has crashed at turn 1. A huge hit into the wall there. Race 3 is turning this one completely on its head. For our race results, Joe Coffin looking to try and get up the inside of Adam Baker here to move into a podium position. Coffin does it and is now on the hunt for Salaborski and Gregory Speakman, who leads this race by 2.5 seconds at the front of the field. I said that Speakman was finding some pace this season, and yes, he's found himself into the lead because of the inverted grid, but actually he's still putting in some good speed out there at the front of the field to be pulling away from those behind him. In fact, Riley Pogue, who's got the fastest lap, is only 0.2 of a second quicker than Speakman's fastest lap so far as well. Matt Neal trying to get up the order, gets past James Pacey Knight. Remember, the top 15 score points, and the championship can come down to those small points at the end. So we'll have to see if that's the case again this season, but we will have to wait to find out. Matt Neal is looking to take as many points as possible as he can as Pete Paver goes for a slide into Paddock Hill Bend, and will have to give up a little bit of time gained there, and that is Thomas Batchelor behind. Batchelor with the damage on that car, you can see the damage on the left front there, has just put in the purple lap time in this race. Thomas Brown is once again out on track as well, but in 15th, still getting a point here. But Lazarus Smith has found himself disqualified from this race for not serving the penalty. So James Lazarus Smith, for not serving his penalty, is going to be DQ'd from this race and will have to come down pit lane. Thomas Brown gets his way past Carcola. Carcola started this one in 4th, of course, falling down the order with all of the contact and issues that were going on in the inverted grid. Even though we saw Riley Pogue sideways on the opening lap of the race, he is somehow he's gained a position on his grid space here. He's up into 10th position as it stands, as we look at the fight going on between Paver and Batchelor. Batchelor stuck on the outside there, looking to go for the switch across on Paver. Paver tried to slow it down to place the car in the way, but Batchelor just got underneath the rear of that car and shuffled him out of the way. Joe Coffin moves into 2nd place past Salaborski as well. This is how Coffin was able to do that for Chaps Motorsport. It's the exit of Graham Hill Bend up into Surtees. He gets the inside line, and the Elantra moves past the Honda. We're halfway through this race now, and Joe Coffin is chasing down Gregory Speakman, who is leading the way. If Speakman is able to finish on the podium, it will still be his best result in series history, but he is on with a chance for his first ever race victory here. Can he do it? Thomas Brown wanting to get the purple lap time in this race as well. It's doing so right now, getting pushed around there by the 43 of Riley Pogue. They come through the back end of the lap and up towards Graham Hill Bend. There's a bit of an opening in our battles, and I think that's why Pogue is happy to be pushing Brown around, is because he is 10 seconds away from the leading cars, which are all fighting around, where they're the drivers that were able to avoid the issues that were ongoing ahead of them, of course. Right, through turn number 1 they go as we look at Carl Thompson chasing down Pete Paver here, looks to the inside, can't quite do it. Batchelor now on the rear end of Adam Baker is looking to try and get into 4th position in this race and get at least one of the Alfa Corsa cars back onto the podium here, because race number 3 has not gone the way that the Alfa Corsa were wanted to after 1st and 2nd in race 1. A 1-2-3 in race number 2. It has not gone the way here in race number 3. The invert always mixes it up. The top 15 invert mixed up heavily there. I do think that drivers should have taken it a little bit easier than they did, but of course 15 laps around such a short track, you do want to make any move wherever you possibly can out there, which is why we saw such a hard push from those drivers. But I'm sure that there'll be a word from Gregory Speakman at the end of this one. Talking about Gregory Speakman, He is within touching distance for Joe Coffin now as we prepare to enter 5 laps to go. Coffin is running about 0.4 a lap quicker than Speakman at the moment in the Chaps Motorsport machine, chasing down the man who is yet to win. Joe Coffin, of course, stepping in to the league for the first time today as well, which means that we are looking like we're going to get a first-time race winner. In fact, it looks like we're going to get a first-time podium for all 3 of our podium sitters at the moment, as Salaborski's in there in 3rd right now, Speakman's in there in 1st, and Joe Coffin's the only one on the podium that's really had to work his way through. He started this one in 12th, and he's moved his way up. Of course, Batchelor started this one in 13th. He's up to 5th right now, trying to get past Adam Baker, but then it is 2.5 seconds up to Salaborski. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. Right, Speakman is going defensive here, trying to keep Joe Coffin behind in the fight for the win. Speakman, if you remember, was knocked off the track in race number 2 with contact with Pete Paver. Oh no, with contact with Jan Mild, I should say. Gave him a meatball that he had to come down and prepare. It's placed him in perfect position for race number 3. All over the rear of Speakman goes Joe Coffin. He knows he's going to find the way through. He knows he's got the speed over the number 60 machine, but Speakman is just trying to place it anywhere that he possibly can right now to defend from the driver behind. We ride on board with Gregory Speakman. Joe Coffin chasing behind, looking to try and take the race lead here. We have got other fights going on as well with Thompson and Paver. Baker's not too far off of Batchelor as Batchelor's made his way through to 4th and chasing down Salaborski now. But we are going to stay with this lead fight right now as we go on to 3 laps to go. Where is Coffin going to go? He looks to the inside. Speakman tries to place it in the middle of the track, and he does so perfectly. Coffin couldn't quite make that move through, but he's going to have the opportunity. Up towards Druids, and he gets a nose in. It's side by side. A little bit of a nudge there. Wobbles Speakman, but Joe Coffin moves into the lead of the race here, race number 3, and takes past Gregory Speakman, who was on his hunt for his first win after 33 races, but it will still elude him. But this will be his first podium finish if he can hold on here, which it looks like he will. Salaborski running around in 3rd right now is 1.5 seconds clear of Thomas Batchelor. Batchelor has 2 laps to try and get that podium place in this race. We look at this fight being led by Paver. It's then Thompson, Ahmed and Lelius behind at the moment. All of them within points, of course. Top 15 scored points, which means Lazarus Smith, who was DQ'd from this race, Jan Mild, who is in 16th, is out of the points at the moment. He's 6 seconds off of points with Carcola. We come through Druids at the moment with 2 to go. And this fight, as it stands, just leads themselves around without too many issues. We are going to get up to the white flag now for Joe Coffin, who tried so hard to get involved in the fights early doors this evening in race 1 and 2. It didn't quite go his way for the podium finishes he was hoping for. It is going to go his way for a podium finish here in the final race of the day, and that podium finish is going to be the top step. Gregory Speakman and Salaborski look like they are going to hold on to the final podium positions as well, and it means here at round 2 in the 33rd race in the league history, we are going to get 3 drivers never stood on the podium before up there together here in round number 3. Off the circuit goes Hayden Ahmed as he's pushing hard behind Thompson. Thompson still trying to get past Paver here, but here comes Joe Coffin through the final turn, and Joe Coffin will win ahead of Speakman. What's going to happen in this fight? Pete Paver ahead of Thompson, ahead of Ahmed. It looks like it will go the way of Paver across the timing line, and then it will come home in Thompson ahead of Ahmed. And then behind, we got drivers that were involved in the contact. Pogue taking a top 10 in the end. Matt Neal comes home in 11th. Cam McKay in 12th. They were off before Druids. Paisley Knight comes home in 13th, Thomas Brown in 14th, ahead of Phil Carcola in 15th, and Jan Mild will come home in 16th position then. So, for that final race of the day, let's have a look at our full race results from that one. Joe Coffin wins for Chaps Motorsports ahead of Greg Speakman. Janis Soloborski takes the final podium place. Thomas Batchelor comes home in 4th ahead of Adam Baker. Pete Paver came home in 6th. Carl Thompson in 7th ahead of Hayden Ahmed, Marek Lolius and Riley Pogue. We then had Matt Neal coming home in 11th and Cam McKay in 12th position. James Paisley Knight came home in 13th. Head of Thomas Brown, Phil Carcola and Jan Mild, all three of those lapped down. And Lazik Smith disqualified early on in the race. Right, I don't think these are going to work, but we're going to give it a go. Are our championship standings working? They don't look right. Because Thomas Brown, for some reason, only has 22 points. And Batchelor has 41, and Joe Coffin has 40. These points don't look right. Right, we are going to get you the championship points. I will get you the championship points in just 1 second. Because we will go and have a look at the official results over here. I don't have time to mess around with the overlays this time, but we will get you the season standings. Hopefully, they will update in just a moment's time because this session is over with. Yep, I can get you the points then. Thomas Brown, for some reason, he's the only one that looks like it's incorrect, actually. Thomas Brown should have 44 points. For some reason, it's not showing that. So, Thomas Brown is leading the championship with 44 points. Joe Coffin has 43 points, showing the consistency matters. Even with the 2 victories, Joe Coffin's string of results means he is only 1 point behind Thomas Brown. And Thomas Batchelor holds on to 41st. And I am going to go very unprofessional and put the overlay here for you so you can have a look. It was then Matt Neal who will hold on to fourth place, but 4 points between the top 4 in this championship. Looking at these points here. So there you go. Those are the points, the official points that have come through. But that might not be... No, that is all 3 races, isn't it? 20 points for both wins for Brown, which means 40 points. And then 4 points for a 14th position finish. Yes, that is correct. Okay, no, 2 points for a 14th position finish, but he got the bonus points for the fastest laps. Okay, these points are the correct points. It does mean that other drivers who have had difficult races in comparison are obviously further down the order. We see Riley Pogue there is holding on to 5th right now, tied on points with Speakman and Paisley Knight. Right then, that's the championship. We will get the full championship working for our screens next week so that you can have the full, proper-looking championship standings here. Right then, here from our LSR event then, we are done for the night. And what an amazing evening it's been for the Lame Sheep Racing's events. The support series, the Porsches, what an event it was, of course, going the way for Thomas Brown in both of those races. It was then a fantastic pole once again in the first race of the season for Brands Hatch, and then it was 2 wins for Thomas Brown in the touring cars as well. These double features are going to be happening every single Sunday here on the Joseph Wright Broadcasting channel. So make sure that you are hitting that follow button and you are notified when you go live. Of course, we do have ads running. That is unfortunately just something that Twitch makes us do. So we do apologize. If you want to get rid of those ads and you want to support us here on Joseph Wright Broadcasting, then make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. And then if you can get rid of all of those adverts. But every single Sunday we'll be going live from 6 p.m. for this league. And that's for the next 10 weeks, not including today, because we have got a fantastic calendar coming your way. 3 races at each of them, of course, and that's starting here and ending here with Brands Hatch GP at the end of the season in April. And of course, that will be back-to-back with the Porsches into the touring cars. But if you are joining us here live right now, don't go anywhere, because we are back in just 10 minutes' time for round number 3 of the Type 2 Roulette League, where we have got the first wheel spin of the night, and we will be going for 2 races around there. So make sure that you are sticking around and not going anywhere. But here today from the Lame Sheeps Racing, we bid you farewell, and we will see you next week for rounds 3 and 4 of the Porsche Support Series, and for rounds 4, 5 and 6 of the British Touring Car Series when we head to Alton Park. Now then, we wish you a great night. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you are sticking around though, because we have got another event coming your way with the first spin in 10 minutes time. So don't go anywhere. Bye-bye.